So we talked about reasons to be confident. Give me a reason why Rams fans should be concerned going into this game.
So one is Kyle Shanahan schematically. I mean, he's obviously one of the best in the games, but especially against the Rams, like he is a magician and an absolute does master classes on the Rams. I think every time they play schematically, whether it's whatever the Rams try to do defensively, it's like, okay, we're going to take away Kittle. Well, then it's a Deebo Samuel game. If it's like, okay, we're going to take Deebo Samuel, it's a Kittle game. We're going to try to take both away. Well, now you have Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk, who just balled out last week with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So not only is the talent there, but schematically, Kyle has always had an answer for whatever the Rams try to throw at them defensively. So all the issues with, facing this ferocious front four that the Niners have with, a strong secondary with obviously arguably the best linebacking core with Greenlaw and Fred Warner. I still think the Rams offense will have some success. I'm not saying they're gonna blow it out of the water, but I think they'll be able to at least put up 20 points. But defensively, my concern is like there's just so many weapons. What do you stop? And you guys lose Mike McGlinchey, and your offensive line still looks like it's better than most. So I just think that's kind of what my concern would be is like, how do you slow down this scheme? Because no matter who you key in on, Kyle Shanahan always seems to find a way to get one guy to be his moment. So that would be my biggest concern is, schematically, how do you slow these guys down?
Yeah, it's very, very tough. I don't think there's many teams that player for player can match up. It's almost like you just hope that they have an off day. And I think it can be daunting looking at it. But I will say this, there is a weakness on this team as it stands right now. And it may not be throughout the course of the season, but right now the right side of this offensive line is very questionable. Very questionable. You had 3 sacks given up to TJ Watt last week, albeit one of the best pass rushers in the league. But Colton McKivitz was a turnstile over there, and he gave up 5 pressures as well. Then you have Spencer Burford, who's going into year 2. A lot of us, including myself, hope that he would take that leap going into this year. So far, he has not. He had 2 penalties that last game and had 4 pressures himself. Neither of them were dominant in the run game. Usually, like with Mike McGlinchey, really good example. Not the best in pass protection, but you could count on him in the run game. Well, right now, you can't count on Colton McKivitz to do anything because he was not good there either. So when I look at somebody like Spencer Burford and I look at the 49ers who traditionally have done a very, very good job against Aaron Donald, he almost does nothing in these games. I don't know if that's going to be the case this weekend. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the reason that the 49ers lose necessarily, but Aaron Donald, I think if he gets matched up with Spencer Burford and gets some one-on-one looks, I think that is an area where he could absolutely wreck the game. And I am worried about potentially that happening. So the right side of this offensive line, ultimately long-term, if the 49ers are going to be real Super Bowl contenders, and I think they can be, they absolutely have to figure that thing out. They cannot roll with these 2 guys on the right side if they're going to continue to play this way. And if it comes down to it, how do you replace them? I don't know. During the season, that is tough to do. So hopefully they can step it up. But right now, the right side of the line, it was in question coming into the season. I talked earlier about how the 49ers answered a ton of questions in game 1. Well, that was the one that they did not answer, and there's still a lot of questions there.
Yeah, and so that seems like, and I was actually going to ask you, like, is there a weakness they can expose? So it seems like that would be, you got to almost cheat all to one side, bring the pressure that way, and then see how, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan obviously counters that, which they always do a pretty damn good job of it. But I think that'll be an interesting storyline to see is if they're able to, with guys like Kobe Turner, Byron Young, both rookies, but because they don't have Jesse. I mean, the Rams, this is the first year probably since they've been in LA where they don't have, obviously outside of Aaron Donald, but on the edge, they don't have at least one star pass rusher. Because it's like they drafted Dante Fowler, in the first round, and he was never really a star, but at least had that pedigree. They traded for Floyd. They traded for Von Miller. They always had at least one guy that kind of showed out. Well, right now they got Michael Hoyt and a bunch of young guys that are kind of just rotating in Byron Young being one of those who played very well last week. So will those young guys be able to expose that right side, or is it going to be the Donald show and up to him to have any effect is what's going to be. So throwing it to you. I mean, what's not to be confident but what would you be concerned at all about facing this Rams team?
Like I said, Aaron Donald's always a monster, but I would say Matthew Stafford. I mean, if he gets hot, he gets hot, and he is hard to stop. Now, I obviously, if I'm just being realistic, I think this 49ers defense really outmatches 95% of the offenses in the league. However, good quarterbacks can sometimes just be the difference. They really can make up major gaps in talent from time to time. And I think Matthew Stafford still can be that guy. And I would be concerned about that potentially happening. I don't think it's a huge concern, but it definitely has to be something worth monitoring because I really have a lot of respect for Matthew Stafford, a ton. If you haven't understood that or figured that out by now, by the way that I've talked about him to this point, let me tell you again, he's a bona fide top 10 quarterback. I have a ton of respect for Matthew Stafford.
Hey, the Niners tried to get him, right? They were in the sweepstakes when the Rams traded. The Niners were the other team, and the Rams just happened to beat him out.
Yeah, so. I mean, absolutely. And likely it would be the 49ers with the Super Bowl ring at this point. How the tables have turned on that whole thing. It could have been the Niners, and, who knows what the talent would have looked like then or what would have happened after that year. But, yeah, Matthew Stafford, I believe wholeheartedly would have delivered a ring to this team by now. And, the whole Trey Lance thing that really had a hold on this fan base the last couple of years would have been non-existent. It would have been Matthew Stafford. Hell, we wouldn't know anything about Brock Purdy, not as a 49er anyway, because Matthew Stafford would probably still be here. So, everything happens for a reason. I think the 49ers can get it done with Brock Purdy and this team this year, and hopefully that's the case. But if not, then that will be one that will probably forever linger, is like the quarterback that got away. So we'll see. Rob Schneider stepping in. Do you remember Rob Schneider, like in those crappy 2000s comedy movies?
He's the best.
What was one of them? There was one Dates? Where he was the what one?
Well, 51st Dates is one when he's the crazy.
There was one where he was like a pet, like babysitter or something like that. I forget what it was called. Anyways, there was two of them. They were absolutely awful.
He was also the male gigolo.
Yeah.
He was those ones or international.
I think that was him. Yeah.
Nice. He became. We're getting way off topic here, but he became the business has now gone under, but there's a solar company out here in LA called Varango Solar. And he became like the celebrity spokesperson for Varango Solar. So I don't know if his career just gone that bad where he had to do like solar commercials, but he was the face of Varango Solar and they're no longer even around. Deuce Bigalow.
Good for him, man. Good for him. Get your money, Rob Schneider. The sacks look like coverage instead of rush sacks. Okay. Is that like on the... Oh, he's saying, all right. Dallas's D-line looks better than ours. Got it, speed. Okay. So he's saying on the 49ers side, they look like coverage. I'll say this. The 49ers had 5 sacks. And I don't think that the Steelers have a great offensive line by any means. But Bosa hasn't even gotten going yet. Like, he just got to the team that Wednesday. Like, Wednesday night, he flew from Florida to San Francisco or Santa Clara, signed his contract late Wednesday into Thursday. Then 2 days later, had to fly back to the East Coast. He wasn't his same dominant self. I would put this defensive line, especially now that I've seen Drake Jackson do his thing, up against most in the league. So I think week 5 is going to be fun. And we'll see who the dominant defense is. But I think there's an argument to be made that the 49ers are still that. So we'll see.